2023 release for full demolition. Here's what we're going to cover in today's training. We'll talk about the past full demolition versus the future. We'll go into the different work types that can be used for full demolition. We'll also talk about the 5 different types of full demolition. We'll get into some details about how the job filing works and how it differs from other types of job filings. We'll talk about inspections, the work permit process, and landmarks. And then I'm going to hand things over to my colleague Anthony, who will take you through the system to show you how to file full demolition job filings. He'll go through the site safety updates, and he'll show you how to schedule and cancel inspections in the system. So some of this may be a repeat, but it's always worth talking about. There is a chat feature, a Q&A, where you can ask questions because your microphones are going to remain muted. We have a panel of DOB experts who will be answering your questions. If any questions cannot be answered in this training, say we need to do some research, then they'll be put into what's called a parking lot, and we will look at the questions afterwards and try to get back to you. We may be putting up a frequently asked questions on the training page. We do encourage you to give us feedback. You're going to get an email after this session, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, asking what you thought about it. Please let us know, because we do want to make sure that our trainings are as valuable as possible to our participants. So let's now get into our training. A full demolition job is required to be filed with DOB if a building is going to be completely demolished. Until Monday, all full demolition jobs were filed, processed, and managed in BIS. For more information on which full demolition jobs will be allowed to continue in BIS and which ones need to be refiled in DOB Now Build, check out the January Full Demolition Service Notice. As of March 6th, which was Monday, all new full demolition jobs are filed, processed, and managed in DOB Now Build. Once they are submitted, full demolition applications will be reviewed by the full demolition team. Full demolition jobs, as you may know, always require a site safety plan or a site safety waiver submission. Upon job filing approval, applicants may be required to schedule a pre-demolition inspection before work permits may be issued. No pre-demolition inspection is required for emergency work order or immediate emergency declaration job filings. Work permit applicants must be general contractors with a demolition endorsement, or they must list a subcontractor who has a demolition endorsement. In addition, DOB must be notified 2 days before the start of demolition work. Upon completion of the demolition, a post-demolition inspection must be scheduled before sign-off may be obtained, and that is for all types of full demolition. When a post-demolition inspection is past final, the permit is signed off, and the letter of completion is automatically issued by DOB Now Build. This will also automatically sign off all the subsequent filings filed under the initial full demolition job filing. So we are introducing both a job type and a work type. A new job type called full demolition will be introduced in DOB Now. Work types available to file under full demolition are full demolition, which is required for the initial filing and can only be filed on the initial filing. And then all of these other types of work may be filed as subsequent filings. I should note, though, that one of the types that was just listed, suspended scaffold, those applications must be filed in BIS because the work type is not currently included in DOB Now Build. All other work types that are allowed under the full demolition job type can be filed in DOB Now Build. And you'll hear this again, but I highly recommend that you download a copy of this presentation. The documents that I'm using. You will be able to get that from the same page where you signed up for the training session. And that way you'll have all of these details. The initial full demolition job filing must have full demolition as the only work type. In addition, initial filings must be filed as standard plan review. Subsequent filings can be filed as standard plan or professional certification review, and they can contain any of the other work types listed on slide 6. A subsequent job filing can be initiated only after the initial job filing is submitted to DOB. And it's important to note, work types may be combined in subsequent filings under the same rules that apply to other job types. So for example, you can combine plumbing, sprinklers, and standpipes as a single job file. So we talked about job types and work types, and I want to make sure this is clear. There are 5 different job types available in DOB Now Build: alteration, full demolition, limited alteration, new building, and no work. If you choose full demolition as your job type, then for the initial job filing, full demolition will be automatically selected as the work type as well. There are 5 types of full demolition. This is the next thing you'll be required to enter: new work, emergency declaration, immediate emergency declaration, emergency work order, and precept. And a precept, by the way, is a court-ordered directive. Landmarked and calendared buildings have some special circumstances within the full demolition job type. Non-emergency full demolition of a landmarked building requires an authorization letter from the Landmark Preservation Commission, also known as the LPC. This includes all new work job filings and precept job filings where there's a private owner. If a building becomes a landmark during the filing process, the applicant must resubmit the job filing with the landmark authorization letter attached and go through the plan exam process. Buildings that are calendared for landmark review have a separate workflow involving approval for non-emergency full demolition from the LPC, and I'll get into that in a little bit. The 5 types of full demolition filings can be divided by whether the work is done under emergency conditions. If it is not an emergency condition, then it is a new work full demolition filing. Emergency declaration, immediate emergency declaration, emergency work order, and precept are all types of emergency conditions. So let's go into a little more detail about each of these full demolition types. New work applications include the full demolition of a building, either by a private owner or by a government agency, when no intervening orders are present. In cases where the building owner is not engaged and the building has not been maintained and it's deteriorated to the point that it is at risk of collapse, DOB will prepare and execute an emergency declaration, which provides the administrative framework for the Department of Housing Preservation and Development, or HPD, to perform this work. More urgent is the immediate emergency declaration. When DOB determines that a building is structurally compromised and there is no owner present who is willing or able to undertake the work, DOB will prepare and execute an immediate emergency declaration, which provides the administrative framework for HPD to perform the work. When DOB determines that a building is structurally compromised and there is an owner present who is willing to undertake the work on their own, they will be issued an emergency work order, which allows them to begin the demolition in advance of filing and obtaining permits. So just to make this clear, an immediate emergency declaration is for a structurally compromised building where there is no owner present. And an emergency work order is for a structurally compromised building where there is an owner present. A precept is a court-ordered directive authorizing HPD or the building owner, under some limited circumstances, to begin demolition work, but this is only after plan approval and permit issuance. In general, full demolition jobs can be filed either by a private contractor or by a city agency. If a city agency is filing the job, it's fee exempt. And a city agency may file job filings for any type of full demolition. The building owner can take over a job filing that was submitted by a city agency, and they do that through a post-approval amendment. For full demolition of a 1, 2, or 3 family building, the applicant does not have to be a registered general contractor with 1, 2, and 3 family qualifications. However, if the permit holder does hold those qualifications, then no construction superintendent is required. Only immediate emergency declaration and emergency work order job filings may be filed after the fact. All other full demolition job filings must be filed prior to beginning work. IED and EWO job filings must be filed within 2 days of the start of work. But because work has already started, plan approval and permits are not required for that work to start. Permits should still be requested, however, for IED and EWO job filings, even though the work has already started. So there's some details here about who is allowed to file which types of demolition, who the applicant of record can be. I'm not going to go through all of these. They're here so that you can refer to them from the PDF version of this presentation. Let's talk for a minute about legalization. All types of full demolition may be filed as legalization. The civil penalty for work without a permit will be triggered with the legalization job filing. And there's two possibilities for the amount of that. For a 1 or 2 family house, the penalty is $600. And for all other buildings, the penalty is $6,000. If there's no work remaining to be completed on the legalization job filing, the homeowner can be the work permit holder. To do so, they will have to first answer yes to the question, was the work that is being legalized performed by the homeowner? The plan examiner must grant approval, and then at that point, the permit will be issued as a no work permit. If demolition work remains, the homeowner does have to engage a demolition contractor and follow the normal full demolition process. The application will be sent to the full demolition team for plan review and post-demolition inspection. So we talked about applicants, and I want to go into a little bit more detail about when a registered design professional, a professional engineer or registered architect is required as the applicant. So a PE or an RA is required as the applicant when one or more of these conditions are met. The building is greater than 3 stories in height. The building is greater than 5,000 square feet per floor. The building is not detached. The demolition is using mechanical equipment, or the foundation is not being removed. If none of those conditions apply, then you do not need a PE or an RA as the applicant. So some of these questions that we just identified are going to show up in the scope of work for full demolition. You'll see here there's a lot of questions, and we'll go into the questions in a little bit more detail when we get into the system. But the questions determine some other things that might happen. For example, if you answer yes to the question, is the structure to be demolished, wrecked, or weakened as a result of fire, flood, explosion, age, or other causes, then a special inspection is going to be added to the job filing. A structural stability, weakened structures, or slender masonry special inspection. So depending on the answers you choose, there may be some additional special inspections that are required. Some of the answers you give will cause additional questions to appear, and users have to answer all of the questions that appear. Sometimes the answers to these questions will require further action. For example, if you answer yes to the question, will any building elements above grade remain after the demolition? Then what's going to happen is the plan examiner is going to issue an objection, and that can only be resolved by requesting a determination from the borough commissioner. Some other things that will require further action. If there is a sprinkler system and the building has a fire department hose connection, then there will be a sprinkler filing that must be filed. If you've already filed the sprinkler filing, then you'll enter it at the point where you tell the system that there is a sprinkler system. Where you tell DOB now that there is a sprinkler system. If you are planning on filing the sprinkler application as a subsequent filing, you don't need to enter the job number. And sprinkler applications must be filed as modification alteration. If the building has a standpipe system, similarly, then a standpipe filing job number must be included unless the standpipe filing will be a subsequent filing. Now, applicants may choose to file a combined plumber, sprinkling, and standpipe subsequent job filing, or they can have the work types can be filed as standalone subsequent job filings. So we talked a little bit about technical reports and special inspections. I want to go into a little bit more detail on that. The mechanical demolition special inspection is required when other than handheld tools will be used within the building. And that applies to all types of full demolition except for immediate emergency declarations. The structural stability special inspection is required when a design professional is required as applicant of record. If the structure being demolished is a weakened structure, or if the work involves slender masonry, by the way, is height to thickness ratio of 16 or greater, so then the weakened structure special inspection is required. Special inspections may also be required for the respective work types on subsequent filings. So in order to follow a full demolition job filing through the process, we're going to talk about the different statuses that the job filing may be in. And these are in order of when they might appear. The first time you save your job filing, before you submit it, the job filing is going to be in pre-filing. Once you submit it, it will be an awaiting PE assignment. What that means is the chief plan examiner or assistant chief plan examiner need to assign it to a plan examiner. Once it's assigned to the plan examiner, it will be in PE review because the plan examiner is going to review the job filing. If the plan examiner raises objections to the job filing, then the job filing will show up in objection status. All objections must be addressed before resubmission. Now, if a building becomes a landmark during the plan exam process, an objection will be raised requiring a landmark letter. Approved status means the job filing has been approved by both the plan examiner and the chief plan examiner. And at this point, you would be able to request your pre-demolition inspection if that's required. Once you start filling out your permit request and hit save, the status of the job filing will be PW2 pre-filing. After you've finished your request, when you submit it to DOB, then it will show up as pending QA assignment, which means the QA supervisor needs to assign it to a QA admin for review. QA review is when it's being reviewed by the QA admin. Now, if the QA admin identifies some issues, let's say instead of uploading your plans, you accidentally uploaded a picture of your dog, then the job file will be put into QA fail, and you need to fix whatever the issues are, upload the correct document for the permit to be granted. Once the QA admin has completed review on a building that is calendared for Landmark Preservation Commission review, there is a statutory 40-day hold required to allow for potential LPC input into the status of the building. If your building is in that situation that is calendared and it's on hold, you'll see application on 40-day hold as the status. If at this point the LPC determines that the building is in fact a landmark, then the status will be changed to landmark letter required. That means that you as the applicant must resubmit the job filing with the landmark letter attached. We'll talk about exactly what the LPC can do in a little bit, but the next status that you will see is permit entire. That means the work permit has been granted. The job filing will remain in this status through the post-demolition inspection. Once the post-demolition inspection is in pass final status, the letter of completion is automatically issued. The job filing status will be LOC issued, and the bin is going to be made obsolete. The permit status will also change to signed off. Now let's talk about fees. The general way of calculating fees for full demolition is you take the frontage in feet times the number of stories times $2.60 with a minimum of $260. On top of that, for legalization job filings, you must also pay for a 1 or 2 family house an additional $600 fee. And for all other buildings, you must pay an additional $6,000. So let's go through a couple of examples so you understand how to calculate this fee. Remember, we're taking the building frontage in feet times the number of stories times $2.60 for the total fee. For example, a 100-foot long building with 2 stories would be 100 times 2 times $2.60, which ends up as $520. If your building is 70.5 feet long and has 5 stories, then the calculation is 70.5 times 5 times $2.60 to get a total of $981.50. Now, if it's a corner building where there's 2 building frontages, you use the longer one. These fees only apply to private owners. No fee will be charged to city agencies. So we talked about this, but I wanted to show this in a different way as well. Here's the review process. Once the applicant submits the job filing, the full demolition CPE or ACPE will review and assign to a full demolition plan examiner. The plan examiner will review the job filing and issue objections if necessary. If any objections are issued, the applicant must respond to those objections. Once everything's resolved, there's one more review by the full demolition CPE or ACPE, and once they approve, your job filing will be approved. Let's talk a little bit about civil penalties. We touched on this, but I want to go into some more detail because this also applies to the L2 process. If there is a work without permit violation on a bin, then a work permit cannot be issued until the civil penalty is paid. Now, there are some conditions in which the applicants can request waiving that work without permit violation and fee. And the process for requesting that waiver is called the civil penalty review, or L2. One example of when that would be allowed is when there's a new owner for the building. Or may be allowed, I should say. It depends on the decision about the L2 application. If any city agency is the owner of record or the legal owner on the full demolition job, all civil penalties are deferred and they do not have to follow the L2 process. If the owner is not a city agency, then they're going to have to follow the L2 process. And if a private legal owner files an application for an ED, IED, or precept job, permits may not be issued until the L2 process is followed. So let's talk about the applicant of record, the owner, and whether L2 or civil penalties apply. So if the applicant of record is a New York City agency and the owner is a New York City agency, then the civil penalties for work without permit are waived and there's no requirement for an L2. If the applicant of record is a New York City agency, but it is a private owner, then the civil penalties or the L2 process must be paid or followed prior to post-demolition inspection. What this means is that the job filing can't be signed off until those fees are paid or the L2 process is done and the fees have been waived. If the applicant of record is the private owner or someone retained by them, and the owner is also a private owner, then the fees must be paid or the L2 process must be followed prior to permit. Now, sometimes you're going to need to change full demolition job filing details. This might involve a change of applicant. If a job was originally submitted by a general contractor, but there are changes made to the job filing in response to objections or as part of post-approval amendments, and they now require a registered design professional applicant of record, then the general contractor must withdraw from the filing, and a registered architect or professional engineer can supersede the general contractor as applicant of record. In addition, full demolition type may be escalated after filing but before approval. You can escalate from precept to emergency declaration. The way that's done is you use the drop-down actions on the main job filing dashboard. In order to make that change, the job should be in filed status, the plan not approved, and the full demolition type should be precept or ED. You can also escalate an emergency declaration to an immediate emergency declaration. In order to do that, you need to file a new IED job filing. There will be a question asked on that. Is this IED filing associated with a previously filed full demo filing? If you answer yes, you'll need to enter the job number. And at that point, the filing fees will be waived because they were paid on the previous job, and the previous full demolition filing will be administratively closed. That process of filing a new job filing also applies when you're escalating from a precept to an immediate emergency declaration. One of the things that makes full demolition jobs, one of the things that stands out about full demolition jobs is that there are pre-demolition and post-demolition inspections. Pre-demolition inspection is not required for all job filings. It is not required for immediate emergency declarations or emergency work orders. Those are the two types of full demolition job filing where you can file your job after you have started work. So you cannot do a pre-demolition inspection if you don't start, if you've already started work. Scheduling of inspections or canceling a scheduled inspection can be done in DOB Now Build. My colleague Anthony will show that to you. Inspection results will also be available in DOB Now Build. So some more details. The pre-demolition inspection can be scheduled only after plan approval. And you can cancel it as long as it's at least 2 hours before the scheduled time. Now, if you cancel it, you can go ahead and schedule another inspection. You cannot schedule another inspection if a previously scheduled inspection is already past final. The pre-demolition inspection must be requested within 1 year of plan approval, and your submittal documents and plans need to be on site during the inspection. So pre-demolition inspections can be in one of 4 statuses, and I want to go through them to talk about what they are. Pending is when you request an inspection date, because when you request your inspection, you say a date and time that would work for you. While DOB will try, until someone has looked at it, they will not be able to confirm that date and time. Once they have confirmed a date and time, then the inspection will be scheduled. And that's the status on the inspection. Another inspection cannot be scheduled while there's one scheduled. You'd have to cancel it to schedule it. And if it gets canceled, there's 2 possibilities. It could be canceled by the applicant, or it could be canceled by DOB. And either way, it'll show up as a status. And then there are 3 results that you may see from pre-demolition inspection. Pass final means you're good to go, and the next step is you can request your permit. Fail final means that you may need to make changes and then schedule another inspection. And no access final is what you'll see if the inspector was not able to get access to the site. In that case, another inspection must be requested. Once the work is done, then there is a post-demolition inspection. It can only be requested after the initial job filing has reached permit entire status, and all demolition work must be complete. Like the pre-demolition inspection, the post-demolition inspection can be canceled as long as it's at least 2 hours before the scheduled appointment time. And you can schedule another inspection after cancellation. And again, like the pre-demolition inspection, you cannot schedule another inspection if a previously scheduled inspection is already in pass final status. Now, the same 4 post-demolition inspection statuses will show up as we saw in pre-demolition inspections. I'm not going to go through this again, but again, it is here in the presentation for you to review as you need. And you'll also see the same results. Pass final, as soon as the inspection is pass final, the full demolition job will be automatically signed off and the letter of completion will be issued. Fail final and no access final work the same as they do for pre-demolition inspections. So, just to reiterate, when the post-demolition inspection is pass final on the initial full demolition filing, the permit status will be changed to signed off, and all job filings, both initial and subsequent, will automatically get a letter of completion. And the letter of completion email is going to be sent to all of the stakeholders on all of the individual subsequent filings, as well as the stakeholders on the initial filing. Let's talk a little bit about work permits. The applicant of record on the PW2, the work permit request, or the demolition subcontractor must have a demolition endorsement. The permit must be pulled within a year from the plan approval date. The proof of general liability document, PGL1, is required during the permit process when the building to be demolished is not a 1 or 2 family home, when excavation is more than 12 feet deep, when proposed work is on the lot line with an existing structure, or when the height of the building to be demolished is more than 35 feet. And if it is indeed required, then after plan approval, the system is going to inform the user of the minimum amount of general liability insurance required. So you'll see an example here. PGL1 insurance is required. Minimum amount of insurance is $5 million. Once you have your permit, you still need to notify DOB about your demolition work beginning. DOB must be notified between 24 and 48 hours before the work begins for all non-emergency full demolition jobs. Now, if that 24 to 48 hours falls on a weekend or an official holiday, then you actually have to notify DOB on the last business day prior to the start of work. The process for doing this resembles all other DOB notification procedures. You're going to go to the plus notifications button on any of the dashboards and then choose full demolition. Now, I should note that this is applicable only for the initial full demolition work type filing. You don't need separate notifications for all the subsequents. I promised to talk a little bit more in detail about landmarks, so let's do that now. As we mentioned before, for landmarked buildings, the initial full demolition job filing must include a Landmark Preservation Commission approval letter. Now that does not apply if the job is filed as an emergency declaration, an immediate emergency declaration, an emergency work order, or a precept if the owner is a city agency. In other words, LPC approval letters are required for new work job filings and precept job filings if the owner is a private owner. It gets a little bit more complex when we talk about calendared buildings. If a building is calendared for a hearing by the Landmarks Preservation Commission, that is, the building has landmark status C in the property profile, at the time of permit request, the permit will not be issued for 40 days. If the building still has the C designation or has no landmark status in the property profile at the end of the 40-day period, the system is going to automatically issue the permits provided that the contractor is in good standing. That is, their insurance is still current and their license hasn't expired. If the building becomes a landmark during the 40-day period, that is, the landmark status in the property profile has changed to L, then the applicant must resubmit the job filing with the landmark letter and go through the plan examination process again. Now, the last step is sign off. If there are unpaid civil penalties for work without a permit, DOB cannot issue a pass final on the post-demolition inspection until the legal owner has either paid the penalties or successfully gone through the L2 process. This applies even if city agencies are doing the demolition work. And as I said before, upon sign-off, the bin of the demolished building is made obsolete in BIS. DOB will work with the Department of City Planning to obsolete bins across all systems. And now I'm going to hand things over to my colleague Anthony, who is going to show you how this actually works in the system.
Thank you, Martha, and good morning, everybody. I will be taking us through the next section of the training here, where we're actually going to kind of expand on what Martha was just telling us, and we'll actually see how these processes take place inside the live system. So without any further ado, let's get the share going. Guys, I got a little glitch on my end here. My share button's not lighting up. Tested this all out this morning. Here we go. That's what we're looking for. All right, hopefully everybody can see. Let me get situated over here. Okay, so we're going to be taking a look at how to initiate a job filing and how to do the scope of work tab, how to complete everything we need to on the scope of work tab. Both very intuitive, very easy processes. So let's jump right on in. Okay, so once you logged into DOB Now, all we need to do is hover over the DOB Now build icon, and then we just click on the full demolition option. From any dashboard, we could click on the plus job filing button and then select full demolition and choose the type of full demolition shown on the next slide. For our exercise here, we're going to be choosing full demolition and new work. And once again, just to kind of go back to what Martha was talking about earlier, these guys up here are your job types. And then these guys down here are your work types. So again, we're going to choose full demolition and new work. But you could also see that we have several other options that we could choose from, which would be emergency declaration, immediate emergency declaration, emergency work order, and precept. So once again, we'll just click full demolition, new work, and click submit, and then we'll be on our way. Now, I'll walk you through the steps to create that job filing, but once the job filing is created and saved, then we'll be able to complete the information needed for the scope of work tab. And this is where the system is ask us several questions to determine which special inspections and additional filings are required. Now, keep in mind, when we ask these questions, additional questions may appear. So these are the different tabs that we're going to be needing to fill out. They are weakened structure, demolition methods, sprinkler standpipe systems, slender masonry, adjacent property information, and emergency considerations. Now, again, based on the information we provide here, we may see additional categories pop up. So we always want to keep an eye on the different tabs in the scope of work tab to make sure that we're populating each one of those sections with the appropriate information so that we may be able to continue. So with each section of the tab, there's a series of yes or no questions, and we're going to have to choose yes or no for each one of those. Our answers may display further questions that will need to be completed. These questions may display after you've saved your changes made within this tab. So after we save changes, we may see an additional section pop up, and we'll have to go back in and provide that section with the appropriate information. So we're going to click on the weakened structure accordion dropdown to expand the section. We'll be asked a question: is the structure to be demolished, wrecked, or weakened as a result of fire, flood, explosion, age, or other causes? We'll answer no to that question. And then we're going to see additional questions begin appearing, and one of those is going to be select the demolition method from the accordion or the demolition methods accordion drop down to expand it. And then we're going to begin answering the questions within it, like how is the superstructure demolition performed? Mechanical. If we choose mechanical, then we'll have to answer another question. Is it handheld or other than handheld tools to be used? So we're going to go through each one of these sections and just continue answering all the questions. And once again, guys, I'm going to show you this in the live system in just a minute. After we're done populating each one of those sections, we're going to click Save. And at that point, the system may display additional tabs within the scope of work section that would need to be completed. So we'd have to go back in, complete those new sections, and then we would hit Save again before we can proceed. Now, the rest of the job filing process is the same for full demolition jobs as in any other type of job filing. We'll complete the job filings as usual, including paying any fees and submitting the job filing. Now, the job filings will go through standard plan review by the full demolition team, and the site safety filings will always be required for full demolition job filings. All right, let's go take a look at how this gets done within the system. So in order to create the job filing, as you might recall, we come up here and we hit plus job filing. And like I said before, I'm going to choose full demolition from my job type and new work from my work type. And then I'll go ahead and hit submit. Now I'd begin to populate all of this information. Okay, block number, I'm just going to put in some placeholder info here, but all of this information just gets populated like you would do in any other job filing. And I'm just throwing in some of our demo information here. And whoops, I got my, there we go. And then I'll head over here and choose professional engineer, my company. Now, I'm not going to go through this whole one right now because all we'd have to do is fill out all the information. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm just going to jump back out. I'm going to do like one of the cooking shows where we show you all the ingredients needed to bake the cake, and then we pull the finished product out of the oven. So this one right here is already populated. I set this one up yesterday, so you can see that we got all our location info, all our stakeholders and owner info, filing and review type, additional information over here. So we have all of these different sections populated with the appropriate information. So now this guy's all set and I hit save, but now I want to demo or show you guys the scope of work tab. This is what we just talked about before. Now take a look. We only see 6 sections right now, but very quickly we will see another section added. So I'm going to begin populating everything needed in the scope of work tabs. And the first question I'm asked over here is the structure to be demolished, wrecked, or weakened as a result of fire, flood, explosion, age, or other causes? So I'm going to say no. Now, when I hit no, try to keep an eye on what happens next. Well, print on zoning data information. I forgot to do this yesterday. So let's just get over here real quick. Sorry, guys, I forgot to set this section up real fast. Do it. Boom. Bam. Just other. Okay, now we can save this. So I just needed to fill out the zoning info real quick before I could get to the scope of work. All righty. Now let's jump over to the scope of work. And again, we'll begin answering our questions. So I'm going to click no over here. And right off the bat, you can see that this building details section just popped up. So let's go fill it out. Is the number of stories less than or equal to 3? As you saw before, it is not. So I'm going to choose mechanical over here. How is the superstructure demolition performed? Will handheld or other than handheld tools be used? I'm going to say handheld. Is the foundation being removed? Say no. Will any building elements above grade remain after demolition? I'm going to say no. But if I click yes, well, in this particular one, that's not a good example. This was the one. If I click yes here, we could see additional information is being requested. But for the sake of this exercise, I'm just going to say the building being demolished did not have a sprinkler system. And now it's asking if it had a standpipe system. So I'm going to say no to that as well. And again, if I answered yes, then we'd have to fill in that additional information. Okay, let's go back, choose no. Slender masonry is a masonry wall with a height of thickness ratio of 16 or greater to be demolished, or a floor structure directly supported by such a wall to be demolished. Again, I'm going to say no over here. Adjacent property information. I'm being asked, is a landmark designated historical building or landmark designated historic district within 90 feet of the proposed demolition? Again, I'll say no. And we're being asked, is the proposed demolition happening on lot lines? And I'm going to answer that with no lot line conditions. Monitoring considerations. Is the building being demolished a bearing masonry or wood frame building? I'm going to say no to that as well. And emergency considerations is usually pre-populated with, is this full demolition filing associated with a precept, emergency declaration, immediate emergency declaration or emergency work order. In this case, we already answered that question when we started the job filing. So that's why it is set to the default of no. Now, I'm not going to click save here because I want to keep this active for a couple other training sessions that we might be running. But in the real world, I would go ahead and click save. All my information would be captured, and then we'd be able to press on with the job filing. Okay, so I'm going to jump back out to the PowerPoint, and we'll pick up where we left off with filing a site safety plan or site safety waiver request. Let's take a look at how this is done. Okay, new site safety requirements in the 2022 construction codes apply to major building site safety projects that did not submit site safety plans to the Department of Buildings in DOB now before November 7th, 2022. Now, I'm going to ask you guys when you get a chance to review the information on this table, and also where you signed up for the course, when you get a chance, make sure you download this presentation so you could step back and review some of the information like the info here in this table, as well as the different steps to complete some of the tasks that we were taking a look at. And this PowerPoint will also serve you very well as a handy reference guide in case you have any questions on how things get performed or what some of the ins and outs are with full demolition job filings. Okay, so make sure you download that presentation when you get a chance, and let's move on to the next slide. Now, creating the site safety request. This can take up to 24 hours for the system to determine whether site safety is required on an approved or objection status job filing. If that determination has not been made and a site safety request is attempted, then the system displays a message to the user informing them of the up to 24-hour wait time before a site safety plan or site safety waiver can be submitted. And below, at the bottom of the slide, we can actually see what that alert would look like. And it's just telling us it could take up to 24 hours for the determination. Try again later. Once the system has determined that a site safety plan is required on an approved or objections issued job filing, it could be initiated by any registered DOB Now user in two ways. So one thing that we could do is go right onto the job filings dashboard screen, hover over the plus requests button, and then hover over site safety and choose site safety plans from the job filings list on the main dashboard, and then enter the job filing number. On the relevant job filing, this is the second way we could do it, we could click on the select action and then click request site safety. So for our exercise today, this is what we're going to be doing. The first choice over here, where we'll go up to plus requests and then select site safety plans. Now, if we wanted to, we could choose it from the action menu over here and just hit request site safety. But keep in mind, site safety will not appear in the select action drop-down list unless the system has determined that site safety is needed on the job filing. So the first thing we'll do is select if we are entering a site safety plan or a site safety waiver. If working from the plus requests button, you will also need to specify the job number of the request. This section of the presentation will start with how to submit a site safety plan and then review the differences when requesting site safety waivers. For site safety plans, there are 3 tabs that we must complete, and that's going to be everything on the general information tab. We'll upload the appropriate document, and then lastly, we'll click the attestations for statements and signatures. And then we would click save and move on with the rest of the process. DOB Now Build will pull location information from the job filing. The applicant on the site safety plan must be a registered design professional. We'll have to enter the RDP's information in the stakeholders information section, and the owner information will be pulled from the PW1. There is also an optional comments field in this tab, and the site safety request must be saved before moving to the next tab. Once the request is saved, the site safety request number will be assigned. It consists of SS for site safety, followed by the job number, followed by a number indicating how many times the site safety plan has been updated. And we can see that information right over here. Here's the SS for site safety. the job number, and then only one time. Only one document is required to be uploaded in the Documents tab, and that's going to be the Site Safety Plan, Plans / Sketch document. We'll press the Upload button, and we'll just simply need to navigate to the location of the document on the Site Safety request, and then no additional documents can be uploaded. In the Statements and Signatures tab, only the applicant of record needs to attest by clicking in the checkbox. The site safety personnel will need to attest to their duties in the work permit, but do not need to do so here. You need to save before you could submit the site safety request. So then we'll click yes to confirm our submission, and then we'll see a pop-up notification that the site safety request has been submitted. The status bar for the request now shows pending PE assignment. So let's go back to the beginning of the site safety request process and see what changes when we choose site safety waiver. To be honest, it's really not a whole lot. Site safety waivers have the same three tabs that site safety plans, general information, documents, and statements and signatures. And the only difference from the site safety plan is in the document section, where the required document is site safety waiver, CSC waiver letter. Otherwise, the process is exactly the same as before. Note the site safety. Did somebody have a question? Okay, well, we're gonna get to questions soon, so we'll be more than happy to take those questions shortly. Now, keep in mind that site safety waiver, CSC waiver letter, is a written request explaining the reasons why construction superintendent, site safety coordinator, or site safety manager is not needed on the job site. To facilitate this, the user may submit a completed A1 additional information form. I'm sorry, that's an AI1 additional information form. So when the SSP or SS waiver is approved, the applicant will get an email notifying them. The approval can also be seen in the SSP request dashboard or on the status bar in the SSP request or in the job filing SSP tab. If an objection is raised to the SSP, it will be visible in multiple places on the site safety request dashboard, on the status bar inside the SSP request, and then in the site safety tab inside the job filing. Now, keep in mind, if an objection is raised, then the user will need to resubmit the site safety request. Any job filing that requires site safety will have a site safety tab, which displays the waiver status, licensee requirements, and licensee release status. The respective sections in the site safety tab will show the site safety criteria, the site safety requests, as well as the site safety release requests. So once the job filing and site safety plan are approved, applicants may need to request pre-demolition inspection before they can request a work permit. Okay, and I think that one is. So let's jump in to the live system and take a look. Now, I was kind of monkeying around a little bit before, so I am going to head over here and just tidy something up real quick. I want to go yes. I always said no. And I'm just going to come over here real quick and go to site safety requests for this bad boy right here. Okay. And now I'm going to head back. Full demolition. And I'll head over here to this job filing. Whoops, actually, I wanted to come up here and do it right from here, requests. Sorry, guys, I got a little ahead of myself here. Site safety plans. And now we're going to choose this guy. Everything's all filled out. Putting in my job filing number. Clicking next. And now I'm ready to rock. Over here with my stakeholders information. Oops. Okay, get my owner info in there. I don't need any comments right now. I'll go ahead and click save. And now I could just head over here to my document section. Let's upload our document. We got a couple of test docs over here that I like to use. And boom. And then lastly, all I need to do is head over here, check the box for my applicant of record, statements and signatures, and then all I need to do is click save. Now, I'm not going to hit submit because I want to keep this active. I've got a couple other sessions that we're going to be doing, so I want to keep this going. Otherwise, I have to create a whole new job filing. So that's really it. It's that simple. And again, if I head over here to the request tab, we could see that we could also do the same for the site safety waiver, which is basically the same exact process. The only difference is the document that you upload to it. Let me get this guy out of here. All right, let's jump back into the deck and let's get to inspections. So we're going to take a look at how to schedule a pre-demolition inspection and how to schedule a post-demolition inspection. This is also a very intuitive process. We're really just going to be interacting with a little widget, as we like to call it, that'll allow you to pick your date and time of the pre or post demolition inspection. So a new inspections tab will appear once the job filing is approved. Clicking on the inspections tab will allow users to schedule a pre-demolition inspection when required by clicking the plus add button. Any user associated with the filing can schedule the pre-demolition inspection, and pre-demolition inspections are required for new work, emergency declaration, and a precept. So a pre-inspection pop-up will appear after we hit the add button, that plus add button, and we're going to choose our date and time, and then we're going to enter the requester's details. So that information gets entered in here. And if there's any additional contact details that we want to put in, we have the opportunity to do that as well. Okay. And then we can even add comments down here at the bottom. And the last thing that we have to do is just hit schedule in order to get that inspection scheduled. A notification pop-up is going to appear. We'll just click OK to that. And then we'll be able to see all the information within the details tab for the pre-inspection. We could just expand or contract that right over here. So just open that so you can see all the info, pop it closed, and then you can hide it just to keep the interface a little bit neater. Now, users can cancel the pre-demolition inspection by clicking you guessed it, the cancel button. A pop-up is going to appear asking us if we are sure that we want to cancel it. And then lastly, it's going to confirm that we have indeed canceled it. Now, the inspection report will be emailed to all stakeholders. And in addition, the inspection report result may be viewed by clicking on the link within the inspection tab. Once the pre-demolition inspection is completed, applicants can request a work permit. After the work permit is granted and the work is complete, applicants will be able to then request a post-demolition inspection by clicking the plus add button to create our post-demolition inspection date. We choose the preferred date and time. Canceling the inspection and viewing the inspection results use the same process that we just saw for pre-demolition inspection. When a post-demolition inspection is pass final, the permit is signed off and the LOC is automatically issued by DOB Now Build. The pass final on the post-demolition inspection will also automatically sign off on the subsequent filings filed under the initial full demolition job filing. Okay, and the stakeholders, once again, can review the inspection results within the job filing. We'll be taking a look at all of this stuff in just a minute. We can click the Inspections tab to view the post-demolition inspection section, then select the applicable tracking number to view the result in the inspection status column. Okay, so over here you can see there's a arrow that we could just expand or contract this section. We'll be able to see the inspection status and all the other pertinent information on it. Okay, so let me jump back in and let's take a look at how to do that. So I have this job filing set up here. So we can head in here, head over to inspections. All of these guys we used in previous classes to demo the process. So that's why they're all there. It's going to list out all the ones that we had scheduled. Now I'm going to come over here and add yet a new one. So let's get this guy done on Monday morning. Okay, 3:14, 7 a.m. is a little too early for me. So I'm going to set this guy up for 10. Now you can see it populated all of this information over here based on the information within the filing. And if I want, I can add additional information over here for additional contact details, any kind of comments, like maybe where to meet on the job site or where the the trailer might be, where the admins are located. And then all we need to do after we populate this and choose our time is go ahead and click submit. Takes a couple of seconds for it to submit. So sometimes I like to do this. This helps speed it up a little bit. And just so you know, this usually does take a couple of seconds. This is very common when we get to the scheduling part. I should have a little like transition music going on here. And there we go. So the inspection request has been saved. And now I could go ahead and click OK. And here we are. We could see our inspection. I'm going to roll this open so you can see all the different information within it. The inspection status is pending. Now, it's so easy to do right here. Like if we decide that we want to cancel it, oh no, I forgot, I'm going to be away that week, or something came up, family emergency or what have you. It's as simple as heading over here to hit cancel. We're going to confirm that we do indeed want to cancel. And now we're getting the confirmation that the inspection has been canceled. Okay. Now down here for post-demolition inspections, it's really the same exact process. We don't have this job filing set up to add a post-demolition inspection, but it is literally the same process by coming over here, populating the widget with the appropriate information, hitting submit, and then you'd be set up for your post-demolition inspection as well. So the process is identical for the pre and post. And with that, I'm going to jump back over here to the PowerPoint, and we're going to say thank you for your time and attention today. And does anybody have any questions?